My name is Phil Migliarese. I'm 5th degree black belt under Relson Gracie. I own Balance Studios. It's a chain of schools in Philadelphia and an affiliated network around the world.
How long have you been training for, and when did you get started?
In 2018, it'll be 30 years. So I started from a Gracie in action DVD. No, not a DVD. It was a VHS tape. Yeah, that's how old I am. My cousin and I, we saw it in like Black Belt magazine or something like that. He ordered it. We started just mimicking what we saw. And then a few years later, a friend of my family's met the Gracies and said, come on to class, we're going to have these guys in. And it was done. Like my first class, I was hooked.
You've been training for a while, as far back when there were Gracie challenges. What was that like?
Still are Gracie challenges. But yeah, that was kind of crazy because we were on the East Coast. So I live in Philadelphia, and the Gracies put out that $100,000 challenge. Ryan Gracie put it in the same magazine that he put in the Gracie in Action tapes. And, you know, it's basically you beat a Gracie, get a $100,000 check. But got to go through some of the Gracie, you know, students first to just make sure you're qualified to fight Hoist Gracie. And, you know, half of the time, probably more than half of the time, they were just not qualified one bit to fight Hoist. Hoist would have killed him in like 3 seconds. Yeah, so it's like almost like we invited people. I don't know why we did this, and I was a little kid at the time. Invited people in. It was the Gracie affiliate here in Philadelphia, and we would go at it on a Saturday. Every Saturday for years, someone would come in. But what we were instructed to do is not strike or hurt or bloody up people, just to prove that you can use Jiu-Jitsu in its grappling form to take someone out and beat them up. You know, it didn't always go like that because my brother and I, we come from striking. It's sometimes nature to throw a jab in your face, and it's, I think, a nice thing because they were expecting us to grapple, and we throw a shot. People put their hands up, easy to take down. You know, so yeah, we did the Gracie challenge, and things still happen here and there. You know, but just different these days because, you know, you can open your phone to YouTube and watch some fights. Everybody knows what mixed martial arts and what, in general, what Jiu-Jitsu is. So,
can you talk a little about that striking background? You talked before we had been rolling.
Yeah, my family, since we got here, my Italian side, were in combat. Actually, points back even further. I'll show you guys later, to about 1,000 years in Italy. The Migliareses were knights, were politicians. They were always involved in combat. As we read further, and my cousins are doing research, it's crazy. We actually have a Roman spear that's been handed down for like a couple hundred years. It's weird. It's actually right behind me. Actually, yeah, you guys have to see this. Yeah, I actually don't like showing it because I don't have it framed yet. It's super, super cool. Yeah. I never showed this to anybody, it's very cool. I'm probably not supposed to be handling it, but it's really cool. So we got this from my dad, and you know, it's going to go up on the wall downstairs. As you see, this is our headquarters here, and so we're just really just getting it fixed up and tidied up. Which is, yeah, it's cool, right?
That's amazing.
So yeah, so we go back a while. My family's always been, you know, growing up in my house, it was like 5, 6 years old. My dad's going like this. You have to put your hands up, you know. So it was boxing. Philadelphia is a very boxing-rich city. They used to do fighting called like gentlemen's boxing, and I can show you some pictures of that later. I was like my grandfather doing it, and then the kids, they were all like, they were kind of dressed up, like they had dress pants on, a white shirt, and then they would wrap their hands and then fight, you know, and then if anybody went down, it was pretty gentleman-like fighting, but they were fighting. So no ground fighting or anything like that, but they used to set up in like, the corners here were not all populated. Now you see buildings everywhere. It used to be like fields. So they put up a little like ring sort of thing in the 40s and 30s. And so, yeah, my great-grandfather came here. He fought in Italy. Then my grandfather, my dad, and us. So we learned Jiu-Jitsu. Like I said, it was like 1988 for me. Not my brother. He was a little too young. And the second I learned it, I tried it out on some family and like friends that were boxing. I just took them right down. It was like so easy. So I'm like, this stuff works. It's cool. Now it's coming around that, you know, with mixed martial arts, a lot of techniques that work very well for a jiu-jitsu fighter, striking techniques to make actually the jiu-jitsu easier to do. So I like this turnaround that I'm seeing.
Well, that's something I actually want to talk about that I've talked to all our interviews so
Mm-hmm.
far is how do you see the kind of renaissance of the traditional martial arts coming full circle, at least on the MMA level? What do you attribute that to, and what do you see as the next evolution of martial arts has kind of gone through a couple different phases, at least in America?
Yeah, I mean, there's a lot of arguments like old school jiu-jitsu, new school jiu-jitsu. You know, I own Balance Studios. We do both. You know, I very much believe in old school, like certain things that you can, you know, really take from that. New school stuff is stuff that you see actually work. So why not pay attention to it? You know, it works in a certain arena. Yeah, maybe it's not a street fighting sort of thing, but if you're entering a jiu-jitsu tournament, you need to be versed in tournament jiu-jitsu. If you're going into a street fight, you have to just, you know, figure out what works, what's fast, what's easy to learn. So it just matters, you know. That's what's cool about jiu-jitsu. It's an interesting operating system for a human that you can, if you're in this situation, you do this. In this situation, you can do that. So it's a little bit more intelligent.
Do you see there being a huge difference between the sport and self-defense?
Yeah, of course. Yeah. There's a major difference between the sport of gi fighting and no gi fighting. Huge. I mean, you get up to, let's say, Olympic level of anything. There's a huge difference between you take one element out, like judo changed. Mm-hmm. Can't hold a pant, can't hold a collar for too long. That changes one person's game. It makes them less likely to take the gold. Then you have to retrain yourself. So yeah, like one little shift changes. So you take uniform off and you're used to this grip or this grip, you know. Now we were lucky, we came up, you know, some of the instructors were wrestlers when we came up, and they were actually very good instructors of wrestling. So I find that, like you see in jiu-jitsu, like a good instructor teaches you slowly. And our whole concept at Balance is that if you can't do it slowly, you'll never be able to do it fast. So we teach like that. So you do it slowly, you get the pieces. So we had wrestling coaches that were, because no one knew jiu-jitsu 30 years ago. It was only, you're getting these little pieces whenever a Gracie came out or, you know, some higher level jiu-jitsu guy came out. So the blanks were filled in by some wrestling techniques. So let's say like you saw my purple belt. When I was purple belt level, I was already really good in no-gi too. Whereas like when I trained with a black belt in a gi, he could get me in a gi. You know, I trained a little bit, you know, he could break me down and get me to move, right? But a lot of the guys, especially the Brazilians at the time, I would take that gi off. I would be like, you know, right there, maybe I could get him. So I'm happy we came up both. And even the leg lock game we did very, very early, you know, probably before many, many schools. Because I always liked the leg lock game. It's a nice equalizer. And I said, why not attack the full body instead of arms and necks, you know? So.
Now, why do you think leg locks have become kind of, I know
they work.
It's big in Sambo, judo, everything else. Why is it suddenly that, you know, like you said, it was part of jiu-jitsu before, that's kind of, now it's the game that
I think it was the game that was hardest to sell as a business, you know? Like an armbar and a choke are very tighty, upright, you know? They see a leg lock, it looks kind of weird, you're cranking on a leg. They are, you know, I don't care who says what, they are definitely more unsafe than an armbar. It's more to break an arm than it is just to turn that knee. So if you have like a, you know, we all have accidents. So if someone pulls too hard on an arm, like I said, there's a lot less damage than someone torquing just that much on a knee. So the teaching elements for leg locks need to improve. So, you know, when we do things here, it's always under, obviously, supervision. So you're going to do it in a class. And then if you're sparring with leg locks, it has to be an agreement in the sparring session. So it's a very organized sparring. Our guys that are pros, they'd have to do everything, neck cramp, just everything, leg locks. So you want to be in a good show or actually get paid for what you do, you need to have a full, you know, full-on game.
Now, you mind talking a little about the belts?
Sure.
You're talking to go through like the history of each, where you got them.
Oh man, well they're all Relson Gracie. So yeah, I mean, where I got them, I mean you can see the sizes. Starting out little waist.
A little history of like
white belt
and stuff like that.
Yeah, white and blue belt I lived in Philly because I was a kid. I got my blue belt before you're supposed to get a blue belt. I think I was like 14, but there was no, that I remember, a yellow belt. I wish I had them because it would be a bigger stack of belts. But yeah, I did, you know, I went 4 degrees in all my earlier belts besides the white belt. So then, like, we do degrees and we don't do them on white belt here. You know, blue, purple, brown we do. That purple belt up there, it's, you know, it looks almost like a white belt. I was in that belt for 6 or 7 years. Because way back, no one was handing out belts to Americans. You know, you need to be like a super tough, loyal American, you know. It was a different sort of thing. So, you know, oftentimes you'll hear that back in the day, if you're a purple belt, you're a black belt. I mean, like, let's say, like, some people get their black belts in 7 years. So, if not sooner, based on their training and, you know, talent. And then the brown, I wasn't a brown so long. I think about 1.5 years, not even 2 years. And then I got my black belt. So, and that was my original black belt that you're looking at there. And then 3 years after that, I got degrees, and you can see all, you know, up there. And then on the very top, we have our 6-degree black belt that I don't touch. I look at it. So I use it as inspiration to keep me pushing forward and learning. And, you know, generally anybody tells you they know everything about everything is lying. Or they don't know that they don't know things. So, yeah, I learn every day, piece things together. That's why I'm still in the game and excited every training session. I'm excited about something. So,
I'm interested about the 7-year timeline with the purple belt. Did you ever feel like?
I guess that was a bad purple belt. Yeah. No, it was. I was in line. You know, there were people ahead of me that needed to get their brown and black belt, but there was like this hold up for the American group to.
Did it ever deter you or depress you or kind of hold you back?
I never even thought about it. I was like, I'm going to kill this belt. No, never. I didn't really care, like, because I got a black belt and it didn't feel different than the purple belt. You know, I was just like, okay, now I don't have to worry about belts anymore. You know, like, seriously, I don't have to get a black belt. You're just a black belt and just keep going. So.
Do you keep that traditional structure with your own students as far as?
Yeah, man, they have to earn those things. No, a 7-year purple is unheard of unless you stop training. You know, if you get, 3 years, get a brown belt generally. Like, there's people who are training, as you saw downstairs, they're training 3-4 times a week. Some guys are training every day. So, yeah, we need the consistency. Some guys compete, some guys don't. So we, base it off of different criteria.
We kind of segueing from the martial arts aspect. We were talking earlier about the police and military training you do, and your book as well, early slightly mentioned. Do you mind talking about the community stuff you do with policing and self-defense? Yeah,
here in Philly, we give seminars for free for law enforcement. So, we've gone out to like the police academy for quite a few years, like towards their graduating time, and give them a couple-hour course. We have major discounts for any law enforcement in Philadelphia here. I just want everybody training because you never know. So, and that's why I still like the street aspect, because I know it'll work if you get jammed up in a bad situation, especially if you're law enforcement, you'll be seeing that situation more often. I've worked with all sorts of military, law enforcement on a federal level, traveled and, been doing that for a while.
What do you think is important for an instructor to convey to police or military? Because obviously it's a little different.
It's not mat training. Okay. Like, we have to remember it's concrete training and car training. And, it's not the same arena where we get the luxury of like nice, beautiful mats and padded walls and that sort of stuff. It's the real deal. So, I get the luxury of going down and doing that every day, where they are on the street, arresting people that are resisting. So this major distinction is that this is real, and you have to use things that work, not things that are theoretical.
Now, for your business, building the different franchises, is that something you originally envisioned? I know you're involved in a lot of things outside of the martial arts. How does the martial arts and business aspects kind of intertwine?
Well, when I first opened, I was kind of pushed out of the place where I was working. And so I had to do it, and like, because it was my living. And so I opened up, and I never thought that it would get big at all. I was like, okay, because I was still in school for psychology. So I literally thought I'd be a psychologist during the day, and then at night I have a little club somewhere. And so I opened up, and because of my background in technology, I was able to put up a website where I don't think there's anybody else in the city with a website. Maybe around the world, there were like 2 or 3 websites that were martial arts based. Nobody had a website. So I put that up, and people were searching, and if they did use the web to search, they would find us first every single time just because we're the only ones. And so, like I said, I always had the ability with my hands to change and to update websites and things like that. So we always pop up. So I don't take out any ads. I never done. Actually, the only ad I ever took out was when we opened up this place 2 years ago, and I spent $60 on a Facebook ad just because I was going to try it, and it brought in 4 or 5 students, so it was a $60 well spent. But in general, I'm very organic, and I try to get in the community a little bit more, and keep the word of mouth, which I think is extremely valuable over digital. Word of mouth, strong.
So you would say, as an instructor bringing new students, you believe in more organic, I guess, sales than the digital.
Yeah. Yeah, because we ask many people, they're like, I have this friend, that friend, they're all referred. And now when you go online, there's about 400 choices for martial arts. Who do you pick, So it's very hard to get in front of, every single student searching for that in your area. And also Google does an interesting thing, right? It's like let's say you Google something and the person that's paying for the top is there, then you have also searched is like your school too, or you have a local. It's hard here in Philly because we have 4 locations. So wherever you are in the city, you type in martial arts, we pop up. So that's also another thing is location. So if we own, we own some of the buildings, so we're not going anywhere. So that's another organic way, like
How would you suggest for maybe a smaller school that doesn't have the affiliates or the ability? Do you think they need to be social media heavy, or should they still base themselves off of the organic?
If you have something to share and it's valuable and authentic, you can put it online to market your product. I think it's great. Especially if you really want to share and help somebody. And that's where I try to come from every time I put up something social or video. Like I want to make sure that this actually helps someone. It's not just like showing off my new gi or rash guard. If you want to buy them, you can go to. No, I'm kidding.
The holiday one?
Yeah. Oh yeah, that one too. No, but I think they're cool and they're fun. So yeah.
How are you able to manage
Good question.
all the schools that you have?
It's called really great staff, and everyone with the same mental mission. I don't have greedy people in my organization. We're all very organized. Like this is what you need to do. This is what you need to do. So I like to keep things tidy. My brother likes to keep things tidy and monitor things the right way. And we're in no rush. I think that's the best thing. I'm in no rush to do anything, so I'm not in a rush to build 500 students. What are you going to do with 500 students in one place? I mean, you need to buy a bigger building. You need to buy, I'm happy with the students that we have, but many times when I work with friends or people that are opening up new schools, they have these grand ideas of how many people that they're going to collect and what they're going to do. I try to be realistic in a small space, I try to if I just have 100 students in this location, it's actually great. We have more. But I'm saying even with 100, it's great. If you can't get 100 students, it's not, you should rethink what you're doing. Because there's 100 students in every area of the world. So, and at 100 students, you can start building a real business too. Before that, it's like a startup phase. There's a lot of competition, a lot more qualified jiu-jitsu and martial arts instructors out there. So
do you keep your curriculum kind of the same, or does Team of Balance affiliates kind of get to
what I learned from Elio Gracie and Relson Gracie, I teach in my classes. I do teacher training. I'm qualified to do teacher training now under Relson, so I can teach the full curriculum, give certificates. So I really haven't changed anything. I've only added things, meaning that I think this triangle setup is good for our beginner program. So I added into our 12-week program.
If you had any mistakes that you made in the past that you could convey to a new instructor coming up, what would they be so that they could...
One is don't be in a rush. And sometimes I feel like there's a sense these days that you're like a movie star if you're a jiu-jitsu instructor. And I feel like there's that thing happening. I wouldn't even worry about that stuff. Because at the end of the day, and when I do consulting, I say this all the time: likes on Facebook don't buy cars or buildings. Meaning that like people chase likes, not what actually fuels your life force in business is money, and it's not money in the sense of being greedy and trying to make every last dollar, because it should go to the right places too. But I would focus on the bottom end, because you hang out on Facebook too long, then your rent's due, and that's not doing anything for your students. You have to leave or close down your school, because I think people focus too much on different things. So ultimately it's about enrolling new people into your culture and to teach them the great stuff that in an organized, safe way. So, and all those words I use are very important. I think we got maybe a shot of our like brand message outside on the door. Those words are actually right over here. What we believe in and what we're focused on creating is right on the door. So that sentence, there's 3 sentences there. It took 15 years to write them. So these are the things that are important to us, and describes who we are, what we do, and who we want to teach. Because we're not the best school for some people. We're only the best if you're looking for certain things. So I don't believe in best. Best doesn't mean anything. So it's only the best if it meets your standards. Because I have people come in that want like a $5 product and want to go fight people on the mat, like literally just I'm not interested in teaching that.
What do you think is one thing that you've done maybe above the rest in one area, the martial arts, whether it's retention, whether it's certain training? What do you think that Team Balance does better than anyone else?
Not falling apart. Meaning, like, we've been around 15 years and nothing has changed. The same people around us, no one's gone this way or that way. Because I listened to everyone. So your old instructor, Ken, he had a cool idea. I was like, let me try that, even though like I'm the 5th degree black belt, I'm supposed to know everything. I try different things. So everyone has a say in all of Team Balance. Same thing with my staff. I listen to them. They're like, hey, this is here, this is there. Like, we think this might be better. Let's try it. They have to follow through with it, but let's try it, whatever they're thinking. So I'm open to evolution, but I know what this, what the rock is, what makes this work. But I can also deviate. For example, that rash guard. I never did that. I've been thinking about that for 7 years. But I wanted to do something like cool and nice, like a holiday rash guard or a winter rash guard. So just have fun.
To play off of that,
Mm-hmm.
How important is it being that rock, but also being free-flowing and open to change as a martial artist and a business person?
Well, in the technology world, which we're in, if you're not paying attention to change, you're not going to be in business. The fact. Because someone that comes into business that has abilities with a camera, video, can get ahead of people. I have 30 years in the game, right? People come through my door, they don't care about that. They can care less. Even though I want someone that's like been through it, produced black belts. They're not worried about that. They're worried about like location. If something look cool, a cool image online, that means it's cool. So what I'm saying is we have more of ability to tweak out the front end, what people see before they come in. It could direct them to an unqualified instructor, but they don't know that because they just see him flipping upside down, doing cool things. That may be the only thing that he knows, these like 4 moves. Whereas you have another school that's been in business for 30 years, has a red black belt instructor that knows everything, but he doesn't like digital. But he's a red black belt, he's one of the best on the planet, but no one knows it because they're not keeping up in cyber world. Does that make sense?
So the branding is key.
So the branding is huge, yeah. So people ask us like, what makes you different? I've been through it a million times. So I've produced black belts. I've produced, satisfied customers too, that are just like checking it out. So my whole thing is I believe that everybody on the planet should have at least 6 months of jiu-jitsu. Get in, get out if you want. But I think those first 6 months, if you can pack the stuff that's most likely, if ever, to happen in the street, that's what I pack in those 6 months. And then our 6-month program of jiu-jitsu basics, and our Muay Thai is very similar. The jiu-jitsu basics, you can apply all of those. They all have a sport sort of way of them too. You can apply them right to sparring. So it's cool. So it works for 2 different categories of student. So I don't know. So that's, yeah.
We'll
Branding
get
is
to
huge.
because I want to hold you up.
Yeah.
Which is, what do you see as the next goals, phases in your career as a martial artist, and a business person and instructor? What are the things that you want to accomplish next?
As well, what we did and what we were trying to do for the past couple of years, we wanted to own the buildings that we were in, so we don't have to move anywhere, don't have to worry about that. All we focus is on the student, you know, have like a, you know, nice facility. So I've been more interested in design of facilities and how the atmosphere relates to and improves learning. So if you have a nicer facility, like my wife really likes this one because it's pretty. So she's more likely to walk in this one and take a class here over something that looks like dark and, you know, still you can, it's matte, it's all perfect stuff, but it may not be suitable in the beginning to everybody. Our kids class is huge here because, like I said, those mats look pretty, they're nice, everything's well maintained, clean 3 times a day, you know. So, I don't know, so. That's what I'm looking at for the future, to build better facilities and maybe more. And like I said, we're also focused on the online content now. Because, like I said, I'm 30 years in. I maybe have forgotten more than people have learned their whole lives so far. So I want to go back on my end and in an organized fashion on University of Balance to organize what we know from striking, grappling, some fitness stuff, some yoga stuff. So that's what's cool about the idea of balance. It could be any of those things. So my future, I'm going to be doing more online, membership sites, and then, you know, working on facilities and cooler things in the facilities.
Excellent. Good. Thank you very much, sir.
No problem.